Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the Game Day Show. This is episode 35. This is your source for college sports entertainment. I'm Ethan Bass, your host, and I'm pleased to be joined by
Ryan Scaling.
Welcome back to the show, guys. We got plenty of things to talk about. It's been a while since we actually been on the show, but we got a lot of things to talk about. We're going to react to the playoff rankings again. There's a lot of movement down there. We're going to react to the ACC championship game coming up this weekend and the SEC championship game. And we're going to give you your game championship weekly picks. All right, guys, get ready to listen. Let's get rolling. All right, so we got the playoff rankings right in front of us. I'm going to go through the list, and then we're going to give you our reactions. All right, so let's get to it. Number 1 is Alabama, 2 is Notre Dame, 3 is Clemson, 4 is Ohio State. Nothing really has changed there, and we're going to go over what we think about that. 5 is A&M, 6 is Iowa State, 7 is Florida, 8 is Georgia, 9 is Cincinnati. It's a pretty interesting top 10 there. 10 is Oklahoma, 11 is Indiana, 12 is Coastal, very interesting Coastal team there. 13 USC, 14 Northwestern, 15 UNC, 16 Iowa, 17 BYU, 18 is Miami, 19 is Lafayette, 20 is Texas, 21 is Oklahoma State, 22 is NC State, 23 is Tulsa, 24 is San Jose State, and 25 is Colorado. All right, so I want to get to the first question. We know that Florida lost this past weekend because of Marco Wilson's run the shoe, but to be honest, I don't think they should have been in that position anyways. I don't think they played to their potential, in my opinion. So, Ryan, what do you think about Florida only dropping one spot? I mean, last week they're at the 6th spot at the rankings. Why do you think the committee only dropped on one spot? Because let's say another team did that and they will drop significantly. Why do you think Florida's only dropped one spot?
Well, Marco Wilson's got to be more disciplined. So,
Yeah, it was really bad.
besides that, besides that, they only dropped one spot, but they still have an SEC championship game to look forward to. So, looking forward to that and see how much potential they really have going against number 1 Alabama.
See, in my opinion, I think the committee only dropped on one spot is because they still have playoff hopes. If Florida does beat Alabama in a significant faction, I think they're in. But to be honest, it's still between A&M and Florida, and Iowa State can still sneak in there. But really, if Florida does beat Alabama, they're going to look at Florida, a 2-loss team, and they're going to look at an undefeated, probably Big Ten champs, depending on if they beat Northwestern there in Ohio State. So it's going to be a very interesting roundup. But first, Florida has to beat Alabama, and that's a huge challenge. I bet they'll be extremely more angry. I don't even know if that's a word, but they'll be more angry than last week, since it was a poor performance last week. Kyle Trask still had a very good game, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, but he also had one interception and then a bizarre interception that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen. I want to talk about dark horse Iowa State here. Iowa State did lose 2 very bad games early in the year, but they're coming up strong. Can they beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship?
It all depends on location, and you saw that early in the year when when the Cyclones had the home game and Rattler did get rattled in the game, and so now it's at a neutral site, and Oklahoma's got something to prove since Iowa State won the first one. So we'll see what happens in the second one, but early pick here, but Oklahoma gets the edge in my opinion because Iowa State's coming up huge and coming up really strong, but Oklahoma got something for them on Saturday.
Now, I'm going to give my prediction a little later in our predictions, but I want Iowa State. If they want a chance to make the playoff, of course, they need Florida to lose and Clemson to lose and probably and A&M to lose this next weekend. But I want them to dominate Oklahoma. If they only win by a touchdown or a field goal, I don't think they're going to get in. Same with Oklahoma there. And you need to dominate in order to win in the college football. I want to talk about Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati. Now, these two teams are neck and neck. They're both undefeated. Cincinnati does play Tulsa this weekend, which is a ranked matchup. I want to get your thoughts on a couple weeks ago, Coastal did beat BYU. It's one of the best college football games, in my opinion, of the season. What are your thoughts? Like, if Coastal, I know this is a hypothetical matchup. I can't even say that word. But if this is a hypothetical matchup, would Coastal beat Cincinnati or would it be vice versa?
Well, you can't you Coastal Carolina wouldn't be on the map if that BYU game wasn't scheduled
Yeah, I mean
because
that was a pretty
Zach Wilson
incredible.
can.
Yeah, I mean that was a pretty incredible like setup, like 4 days like before.
Yeah, Liberty had COVID issues, and so that sets the matchup with BYU and Coastal. But I wasn't expecting that big of a game to come down to the goal line stop. You mean you can't get better than that,
Yeah.
and with a Sun Belt team, Sun Belt Fun Belt we all call it. But going back to the Coastal, if they would have played Cincinnati, um, I think Coastal's playing with the chip on their shoulder, and Cincinnati has had COVID problems with themselves. So if it was an ideal matchup, Coastal would get the edge because they're playing with the chip on their shoulder. They were projected to come out bottom low in the Sun Belt, and they're playing them against the world. So you know, Coastal Coastal Carolina Chanticleers are really good this year.
Now, if you're looking at the before in that BYU game, I remember watching on College Game Day. They always have a theme of the week, like a theme. Let's just say like they're beating BYU. They always had the theme of the week, and they're always a very fun team to watch. And they said that before in College Game Day, like before that BYU game. But they do play Lafayette this weekend. It's another big matchup, two big matches for those teams. Both of those need to come on top to keep their playoff hopes and New Year's Day games, bowl games alive for Coastal Carolina. Coastal's playing very good. All right, so let's get to the ACC championship game. It's gonna be an exciting matchup this week. We got number 2 Notre Dame versus number 3 Clemson. It's gonna be on ABC at 4 o'clock. Then right after that, it's gonna be the SEC championship game on CBS. But we'll talk about that later. This is a huge matchup. I have a lot of questions for you. Of course, Trevor Lawrence is going to be playing in this game, the quarterback. This is a rematch. They Notre Dame and Clemson did play early in the season. Notre Dame did come up. Notre Dame did come up off top early in the season and beat Clemson, but without Trevor Lawrence in overtime. DJ was in the game for that one. And a lot of their defense starters are back too. So what do you expect Trevor Lawrence to play in this game? I'm sure he's very mad that he didn't get a chance to play earlier in the season against Notre Dame. What do you expect Trevor coming out of this game, and do you expect him to ball out?
Yeah, knowing that Trevor Lawrence is coming back, it seems like it's going to be a revenge game for him. He's going to come out of the door slinging it, and we all know that he's going to throw it down the field to his receivers, and he's going to produce yards. But he needs an answer to the Notre Dame defense because the Notre Dame defense is playing with an edge.
Yeah, I agree. I think Notre Dame is one of the best defensive units in the whole country. Now, I want to talk about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame does lose this game, which a lot of people are predicting they're going to lose, the spread shows that too. Are they still in the playoff? If they lose by a touchdown or two, are they still in the playoff?
The four teams are locked. I think what we saw today with the rankings come out, I think those are all set.
I don't
Depending on
think
the
so.
Big Ten game.
No, I don't. If Florida beats Alabama, then we're gonna have a. I mean, Florida did lose last week, but they like we talked about before, the committee did place Florida at 7. So Florida destroys Alabama. I know Alabama's a virtual lock there, but Ohio State, I feel like, is the only team. And if Clemson loses, they're not a virtual lock because they're gonna get thrown out. But I feel like it's Ohio State and Clemson who are the two iffy ones. But I do think Notre Dame is a virtual lock.
Oh yeah, so you going back to the Ohio State game, they were this is going to be played their sixth game, and so I like the interesting quote that Dabo Sweeney said about the I can't think of it now, but the stuff that he said about the Texas A you can't put a Texas A&M or a Florida team ahead of Ohio State. Whatever happens in the Big Ten game, or whatever happens in the Big 12 game, or what happens in the SEC game. That's just got to depend on Selection Sunday. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's gonna be a crazy show next week. I cannot wait. It's actually one of my favorite Sundays out of the year. I get to watch the committee place, and it's a really hard job. So I'm really thankful for those people too. Let's talk a little SEC championship football game here, and we're going to go back to the ACC championship game when we do our predictions. But I want to talk about the SEC. Obviously, this is a very anticipated matchup. Florida, Alabama. Florida did lose last week and did not show very good poor performance last week against LSU. Of course, we're talking about Marco Wilson, how he threw the shoe, most hated man in Florida, probably. But this is a very anticipated matchup. I want to talk about what do you expect out of Florida's defense this week? Because Florida's defense, even though they did make some good plays, it was still very poor performance out of Florida's defense last week.
The key success playing Alabama is to stop them on first and second down and get
Najee
them into
Harris is a
long range.
monster too. So I agree with you on that. Najee Harris needs to be stopped.
Yeah, so that being said, they got to force them into third down and long situations. And then the Florida defense, don't get me wrong, they're pretty good, but playing LSU, a team that used three quarterbacks, is what didn't play so great and allowed 30 plus points to a team that's maybe played that game as a Super Bowl in order to go to the bowl season.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for Florida to beat Alabama, they have number one, they have to keep Mac Jones in the pocket. They have to stop the long plays from Devontae Smith and not let Najee Harris have long big runs. I mean, that's just the key
It's a
to
very
success.
key
But if that
opponent. I mean, Florida does also have a very explosive offense. So Kyle Pitts is back. I don't know why he didn't play. Apparently had a small injury and trying to rest him for Alabama. Ridiculous. But Kyle Pitts is back. Kyle Pitts and Devontae Smith, in my opinion, are the two most lethal weapons in college football, other than those quarterbacks and Mac and Kyle. What do you expect? So what do you expect the spread to be? Because the spread's already out from ESPN. I think it's like a 16-point favorite for Alabama. But in your opinion, what is your spread for this game?
how Florida and Bama are they're not 16 points apart, I don't think, but um I think it's the spread in my opinion should be like a touchdown game, like something in between there, because these teams are going to be in a shootout, and if they get to
Yeah.
16 points between one each other, then it's not going to be an SEC game that people wanted it to be.
To be honest, I think this game's going to go like the LSU game. I'm going to give my early prediction now. I think it's going to be like the LSU 40 game last year, how it was a complete shootout till like late fourth quarter. Then LSU last year pulled the veil, of course, with Joe Burrow, and they scored those couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I think that's how this game's going to go. I do have Alabama winning. I'll give you my reasons why in the predictions. But I have Alabama winning. I think it will be a shootout. It's going to be very close. It's going to be very interesting. I think we got two very good games. Of course, the ACC title and the SEC title. So it's going to be a very exciting Saturday this weekend.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Every game, every championship game gives you a sense of urgency to turn on the TV. But going back to the spread, um, one of the key components of that spread are going to be the turnovers, and it's going to be who does it first. And so the key to success is not to give is to for Kyle Trask to have the bounce back game, not not turn over the ball three times against the reeling defense in LSU, but to allow a go for 300 yards, let's say, and have two or three touchdowns and no turnovers at all. Not from just him, but everyone else. They
I feel
have
like
to
it's a
keep.
very I feel like it's a very important game for Cal Trask, especially for those Heisman hopes. All right, we're gonna get to our predictions now. We're gonna go through just the regular games first, and then we're gonna get to our couple of the Power Five championship games. All right, let's get first started with Texas A&M Tennessee. What's your prediction?
Texas A&M. Kellen Mond's been great all year, and the defense of Jimbo Fisher. That program's surprising me every time they come out on the field. Since that win at Florida, they're giving me a lot of hope, and I'll take Texas A&M.
For me, I need to see Texas A&M ball out because if you watch them a couple of the last past weeks, they have won their games, but they haven't looked as fresh doing it. I feel like they need to look more fresher, if that makes sense. And they need a ball out. They need to put more points on the board. I do have Texas A&M. I think they'll get that job done, putting a lot of points on the board. Louisiana and Coastal Carolina. We talked about this one before. This one is gonna be an insane game, in my opinion. I have Coastal. They're too fun right now. I think the whole program is off their shoulders back, especially their coach. I mean, he's in great inspiration. What's your opinion for this one?
This will come off the turnover battle. Levi Lewis is a great QB for the Raging Cajuns, but the defense of Coastal is way too much for Levi Lewis and the Cajuns. Coastal.
Yep, I have Coastal too. All right, let's get to our championship games. I'm going to start with the lower tier championship games, and then we're going to progressively get to the ACC and SEC championship games. Let's start with the American Athletic Conference championship game, Tulsa and Cincinnati. Who do you got?
Tulsa's giving me lots of reason to have hope, but Cincinnati, they want to put all that COVID cases away, and they're gonna roll over Tulsa.
Key factor, Cincinnati has not played in 3 weeks, so that's going to be a huge factor in this one. I got Cincinnati in this one. I think they're only going to win by a touchdown, but it's going to be a huge foul there. Let's get to the Mountain West Championship game, Boise State versus San Jose State.
And San Jose State a year ago had 0 losses, or towards three wins in the last 3 years. But the Boise State Broncos and Bachmeyer, they're way too much for the Spartans.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, my bad for a second. I just realized that the Coastal game in Louisiana was the Sun Belt champion, so that was the Sun Belt championship game. All right, the Pac-12 championship game, Oregon, USC. I don't think this one's going to matter. Maybe for USC, I mean they're going to have the same wins amount as Ohio State. I think they're just trying to get into the New Year's Day bowl games. What's your prediction?
Oregon was way too lucky to get in there with
For
Washington.
real.
Um, Oregon's not. Cristobal lost to a reeling Oregon State team. I got Clayton Slovis and the Trojans of USC.
Yeah, and that one's on Friday at Fox at 8 o'clock. But I got USC. I don't think Oregon should be in there either. Should have been Washington there. All right, so let's get to our Saturday games. We have 3 slots on Saturday. I think they purposely did that on purpose. Let's start with our 12 o'clock slot, and they progressively, I think, get better, but maybe those four and maybe the SEC and SEC can be interchangeable. I'm not too sure on that one. Let's start with our 12 o'clock game on ABC, the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma, Iowa State. This one's going to be a crazy matchup, especially for college football playoff gets crazy. Whoever wins that, I guess, leads the Big 12 as the Big 12 champion and basically has hope for the playoffs. So who do you have?
I think it's a coin flip, to be honest, but it just depends on Brock Purdy or Rattler who has the day. Picked um Brock Purdy to go ball out and go off with a bang for his senior year.
I feel like this Oklahoma team reminds me of last year's Tennessee team. You know, which Rattler, Spencer Rattler, are we going to see today? Are we going to see him from the beginning of the season, how he's throwing all these picks? Are we see him how he's been the last few weeks, how he's being pretty good quarterback? I got Brock Purdy in the Iowa State. I think they're going to win by a field goal. It's going to be very close. All right, let's get to the ACC championship game. This one is at 4 o'clock in ABC. These last 2 games I think are interchangeable. I'm just going to call them the North Barrett games of the week. Let's get to it. Clemson, Notre Dame. Who do you got?
Notre Dame
Really?
defense is too much, but although Clemson's getting their key weapons back, Ian Book's gotta will make a difference down the stretch. Go
Really?
Irish.
I have Clemson. I'm not. I think Clemson's still in it. I think Dabo is going to be really mad about last performance that he saw against Notre Dame. I have Clemson there. I think ETN's also a good running back there and second best in the country. And they're getting a lot of their defensive weapons back, and Trevor's obviously back. So excited to see this one. This should be another shootout. It's gonna be pretty exciting afternoon and night. And let's get to our night game, the other game of the week, the SEC championship game, Alabama, Florida. This one, I guess, is not really the most playoff expectations than Clemson, Notre Dame, but I feel like there's still a lot of meaning. If Florida does upset Alabama, they could still have a cause, even though they lost to LSU, to be in the playoff, depending what Ohio State does. Who do you got in the SEC championship game?
Um, there's an if Florida wins, but all set aside, Bama got too many weapons.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, Nick Saban, and Steve Sarkisian and the Crimson Tide.
Yeah. I have Alabama too. Like I said earlier, I think they're going to pull away late close. I heard Jalen Waddle may come back, but I think he's going to come back for the playoffs. But that dude's an absolute superstar. I think Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, Mac Jones, and that Alabama defense is way too much for Florida. I'm a Gator fan myself. I'm saying that I think Alabama is going to pull away there. All right, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Game Day Show. I'm Ethan Bass.
And I'm Ryan Scanlon.
We'll talk to you all later.